Hey, welcome back to the Disney Plus Everyday Challenge, and today we have National Geographic's Torn. This is a documentary. It's from 2020. Well, it says 2022, but on IMDb it says 2021. Whether it was created or released, I don't know. It doesn't matter. It's an hour and 33 minutes long, but this is one of the more difficult things that I've had to watch on Disney Plus. Not that it's bad or anything. It's just that it's really serious. It's really, in many cases, for the most part, it's really sad. Um, but it's an emotional journey that anybody who's ever lost someone they care about uh, is very real to them. And so, if you're sensitive to that kind of thing, you might not want to live through their experience, or it might be therapeutic to you. I don't know. But this is the story of Alex Lowe and his family, primarily, who survived him, and his passion that killed him. Uh, he's a mountain climber. He was a world famous mountain climber way back in the 90s or so. He was just him and his buddy Conrad, who were sort of competitors at first in that world of just mountain climbing, just you know Antarctica, and even especially Tibet, and all these different places, just ice picks and climbing, and just he had this Jones to just constantly be climbing. And yeah, it's it shows early on through archival footage a lot of the things he experienced, a lot of the things that he had done in his time, until an avalanche took his life on the mountains of Tibet. And this is a time when he had a wife and three young boys, something that most mountain climbers do not have. Like his buddy Conrad, he was, single. He was able to do whatever he wanted, whenever he wanted. He just, hey, I want to climb a mountain. Let me just go fly to that part of the world and climb a mountain. He could do that. Whereas Alex was, he was struggling in some cases. Yes, his family is very important to him, and he loved his boys and his wife immensely. But at the same time, it was that passion that kept pulling him away to far reaches of the world, and even missing Christmas when it went just to climb a mountain, to sleep on in a bag nailed to the side of a mountain, of a tent, nailed to the side of a mountain on Christmas. It just, yeah, it made for some interesting years, especially as the boys are growing up. And this film was actually made by his son. He's directed by Max Lowe, and I can't tell if was Max the oldest or the youngest. I got lost in the translation on that one. But the oldest, who was 10 years old at the time of his father's death, dealt with this in a completely different way than his two younger brothers, because he was aware of what was happening, what was going on, as compared to his much younger brothers, who had no concept of death and no concept of their dad so much, because he was gone a lot, and he was a guy that they loved and cared about and interacted with when he was home, but for the most part, they didn't have as much experience with him as their older brother. Now, this documentary mainly focuses. This is not one of those other National Geographic documentaries where it's like, oh, it's the Okavango River, and we're going to look at the delta and then all the animals, and here's some facts and information and about elephants, or mummies in the pharaoh's tombs, or just any random other stuff that we've seen many times on National Geographic. This is very much a film about a family that grieves and has to move on from the loss of the husband and father, and also the best friend, also, who's having survivor's guilt at the same time. Conrad is dealing with this as well, and this was made, obviously 2021, 22, released around that time, and it looks back on what they went through photographs and videos that they had, and interviews with everybody in the family, and talking about how it affected them as children. It's difficult. A lot of the interviews are with their mom, and her name's Jennifer, and Conrad as well. And each of the brothers talk about how their lives were affected. And you get to see lots of beautiful footage of these mountains and everything else. And that's the National Geographic part of it. I mean, because he is, in a sense, an athlete. He was to these kids, he was Superman. He was a hero beyond all words. Just he was something that was just more than just a father. He was an icon, and even before they were ever born, anybody who ever met him, especially his soon-to-be wife, saw him as somebody who had a ton of energy. Alex was just enthusiastic about the things he did, about life and everything else. He was a character. He was very much, he was just, he had a big personality. And so that really drew people to him. That's got him a wife that he loved and 3 boys that he loved. And then also that in exuberance also brought him to a fate that would take him from their lives way too soon. He died when he was 40. And it was late 90s, I think. And this, like I said, it basically, if you're looking for an emotional journey kind of documentary, well, this is it. This is the emotional journey. It's an hour and a half long, and I'm just like, I realize more to come. If you read the description here, you'll understand what is about to happen in the last half hour. Yeah, I'm going to say it. I'm going to just say it because if you read the description, it's out there. In the last half hour, after everybody has pretty much moved on in various ways, which I will not spoil, they discover his body 17 years later. And it brings up so many more emotions, and also, I believe, prompted the creation of this documentary to understand who he was and how his choices affected his family, and the feelings they all experienced as a result of all this. And yeah, it's not a honk. Can you hear that? Can you hear the alarm car alarm? Sorry, serious moment. Just breaking my concentration. Anyway, so this is not going to be for everybody. This is not going to be. It's not the fun Disney Princess, Marvel, Star Wars kind of world. Can you hear me? Thank you. Okay. It's not one of those things. So I would watch this with an understanding of what you're dealing with. It is an emotional journey. It is a lot of people fighting back tears as they talk about their father or their husband or best friend, and it's not to be taken lightly. You're not going to be like getting some chuckles out of this one, but it is interesting to see a story like this that bridges the gap between kind of a documentary, yes, reality, real world story, and also about nature and the conquering of nature in a sense. But this is very much more about the family and the repercussions of man's life, and coming to terms with that loss even 17 years later when his body is discovered on that mountain, and what they do to find closure. It's that last half hour that kind of really wraps things up. So yeah, it's I'm not going to say I recommend this for people who can handle this kind of thing, but otherwise this is, just get a tissue box nearby and take a deep breath. So it's going to be it's you don't know these people, but it's an emotional journey. So let's move on and see if we can find something a little bit lighter and brighter and fun on Disney Plus.
470.
470. Thank you. 470. I did. Okay. Let's pick 470. Let's see what that is. Is that in the thes? Yes, it is. Okay. We got another documentary. Very different documentary, though. This one's probably a little bit more upbeat because it is very Disney. It's about an element of Disney history. It's about some icons that I'm sure, if you're a Disney fan, if you know your Disney movies, you know these guys. Uh, it's called The Boys, and no, it is not that series on Amazon. There is no Carl Urban in this, as far as I know. This is called The Boys, the Sherman Brothers story. So, yeah, that's what we're watching next. The Boys, the Sherman Brothers story, the men behind the music of so many classics in the Disney universe. So, that's what we're watching next on the Disney Plus Everyday Challenge. I'll see you back here tomorrow with that.